things didn't work. We are discussing the whole issues about weddings and marriages. And what I would like is to allow time for questions because the topic is so long. I have written a whole book on, and some of you may even have read the book, Finding a Life Partner. So it will be difficult for me to cover all of that in a short while. So I just want to do highlights. Then I can scratch where it is itching. You can ask questions. That will help. So we are discussing the whole issue about preparing for marriage and the place of weddings. And we also want to talk about Christian voice in issues like finances, authenticity of wedding, with the traditional, customary, and the whole issue about dowry are all issues which I'll mention. May I start at the level of telling you should never propose to a girl when there is no friendship. Number two, that friendship does not demand, because you are friends, you must marry the person. Timothy was told, treat every young woman as your sister, every old woman as your mother, every young man as your brother, every old man as your father. That way you create a family in church. And that means that young people should be able to relate with one another across sexes without marriage in mind. So you must learn to, don't every girl you meet, don't start assuming you must marry them. You can have good relations even with people. They are also going to be your friends. Finally, you marry one, but the others remain your friends right into the future. We still talk with people who are with me in the university more than 40 years ago, and we got to know each other there. And they are people from another gender. And I think that will be something that will be very important for young people to understand. But in this group of people whom you are fellowshipping with, they are your sisters in the Lord. You have a process. Some of them you tend to agree. Some of them you disagree easily. Some of them, their values and your values, although you are all Christians, will not be values you are agreed on. That should be a way of speaking to you, the Holy Spirit speaking to you to show you this type of a person is not a person you can live with. Because in marriage, you must have similarity of values because there's no way out once you enter. So fellowship generally with sisters and brothers, but I call it acquaintance stage. You are active in Christian fellowship and you make friends, yet the objective is not marriage. That is the first stage I want to emphasize. And that people are not called friends, they are called acquaintances. But then you can move from an acquaintance to a common friend. In other words, 3 or 4 brothers and 3 or 4 sisters are in a closer discussion. I call them common friends. In your group of friends, people you feel free to share weaknesses and people you can count on when you have a problem. And they are from both sexes. Now to move from a level of acquaintance to common friends. You are not specializing on one. This sister knows that yesterday you are with Sister Atieno, although today you are with Sister Wakesho. They all know that you are friends with all of them. That is the second stage, beyond acquaintance. Then, with this common stage, you get to know them better. And that's when you start realizing there seems to be some pull towards somebody. And by that time, you have verified whether they are really seriously born again or not. You have verified whether they are people with your kind of values or not. You have also verified whether your mission and their mission is something related. And that is true, will be true of many sisters, not just one. Those ones who you seem to agree with and attracted to, you can talk to one, and I call it going steady, because now you from what you are hearing from the Lord, this is the person you intend to marry, but you are not sure. You want to verify. So you narrow down to those people with mutual interest. And basically, at this stage of going steady, you are not engaged, but both of you know you are trying to ask the question: is this the right one, or shall I look for another? That's basically a very important stage still in the fellowship. And at that time, you need to be very clear. She has not said yes to you. I have not said yes to her, but you are able to have one-on-one fellowship. And once you have been doing that, it's the time to make the proposal. That's why, by the time you make a proposal, for a girl to say no should shock you, because you already have been together. There are things you have shared. She knows something about your family background. She knows something about your interest in the future. She knows something, although you are not yet committed to one another. So, unfortunately, many boys propose to strangers. After they have said yes, is when they discover that the girl, her salvation is questionable, or they discover the girl is older than him, and they start getting unhappy. That's why there are so many broken engagements, because people are not willing to follow this process of acquaintance, common friend, going steady. They jump all those stages, and they met a girl in the CU, and they simply just jump and propose to her. The proposal stage should come much later, and it should be for somebody who will not be shocked if you propose. In the proposal, state how you feel without spiritualizing the issue. Don't start saying God said, whatever. If you truly, because if God told you, you should have verified it by finding out whether you love her. You can't marry somebody you don't love. So be honest. Marriage is not a spiritual affair, although for sure God leads you, but it's not a spiritual affair. So it's a physical. If you're not attracted to her, why are you going that direction? You should wait until God drops the attraction in you. There's no hurry. So wait until you can actually tell her that I like you, I admire you, I'm attracted to you. That is part of the proposal. She needs to know that she's appreciated, irrespective of whether she's a cripple, the blind, whoever she is. She wants to be assured. If you are not able to communicate to her, to propose, chances are you are not in love. If you truly are in love, all your fears you will be able to overcome them, because you truly want to know whether she is willing to marry you. Do not assume a girl loves you unless she tells you that. And I tell the girls, do not assume a boy has behaved like he must verbalize it. Finally, a proposal has to be something communicated, something you can take somebody to prison for. In other words, he can't say, did I ever tell you anything like that? It needs to be clear. If somebody is unwilling to clearly propose, don't allow the relationship to progress beyond a common friend level, because basically they are playing with you. Some of them, the reason why they are playing this game is because although they are interested in you, they are also interested in somebody else whom they think is a better person, but that other person has not accepted. So they don't want to lose both. So they are double dealing, which is unbiblical and unchristian. That's why they want to continue with you, but don't want you to don't want to propose openly. Some sisters say, I'm praying. What they mean is, I'm thinking of somebody else. And that's a misuse of the word term prayer. So you need a clear proposal, a clear acceptance, or a clear rejection. And if she rejects, that's very good for you. It sorts out your problem of knowing, was it the right person? So if you are rejected, you should not be unhappy, because you wanted to know, is God leading me in this route? If she has said yes, and he has said yes, that's the time you need to share with others. And we normally call that an engagement. An engagement doesn't have to have parties, doesn't have to have rings, but you are now informing the close friends so they know. Although we all have been dealing with this sister, all of us, now she has chosen a particular person, and that they are committed for marriage. So you introduce her to the common friends. Then, if you are free with your parents, you need to introduce them to the parents as your future wife. That's why you should not be reaching these stages if you can't see marriage anywhere within the next 2-3 years. Because how will you be involving your parents when it's just a friendship? Why can't you continue in common friendship? That's why you had in the other one, I call it the spirit of hunting, where you want to book someone, but you're not ready to marry them. So what is this? Why can't you allow somebody to relate well with others? Because if you specialize, you reduce the freedom of the girl. So don't propose her to her if you have no intention of marriage. Or you fear you lose her. You can't lose her if truly God intends you to marry her. By the time you are ready, she will still be available. If you truly believe in God leading. So that's why we are introducing her to the parents, because basically you can talk about when the wedding is likely to be. Have a reasonable courtship period. If marriage is in 6 months, there's something wrong. Because the time of an engagement is a time of preparing for marriage. You can't prepare in 6 months. You need to have time to ask the question, what are the barriers to our relationship improving? How can we go over the barriers? Engagement is a time of finding out how to stay together in marriage. So you don't jump the stage of engagement and get wedded. Because then you'll end up with the challenges of engagement are going to be inside marriage. You know, even an engagement can be broken. But a marriage is something that cannot be broken until death. So why don't you want to extend this one? So I really think if somebody wants to marry you within a year after engaging you, there is something not quite straight. In my thinking, marriage should be in sight within 2 to 3 years, and you should allow the engagement period to be long enough, certainly more counted in years, not in months. When you see somebody wanting to marry within 6 months, might it be that he's already married and wants to marry so quickly so that nobody ever discovers, the other wife or the other man does not discover, will discover after you are already married? Or you yourself do not discover some hidden closet bones. No. You need long enough to get to know each other before the wedding itself. Like I'm saying, engagement is a time to find out how to live together. It's not a time of finding out whether to live together. Whether it is how. Whether should have been sorted out in the going steady period and the proposal period. Now that you are engaged, the question is not, people should be free with one another because they have already committed to get married. Except if during engagement they discover some major issues. Like if you discover somebody is already married, then you can't go ahead and marry only to end up with being a polygamous relationship. Whatever. So that's why you are spending time on it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, you can still hear me. Okay. I felt like somebody had stopped it. Okay, I go on. So it is important that you understand that. So although I'm saying a broken engagement is better than a broken marriage, I'm also emphasizing that inside this engagement, you are getting to know relatives, you are getting to know people. Don't surprise them by going for wedding negotiations with people who are strangers. They have never heard of you. That's why you are giving it long enough for that to be done. So When finally you have had your engagement, part of it is getting to know each other, know relatives, know how, what are the marriage plan, how you intend to live together. Then finally you are ready. My suggestion is your parents and the pastor must have a date of your wedding, not less than 6 months to the time. It's not good to shock your parents. Remember, a wedding is a social affair. Why do you need weddings? Weddings are based on Genesis chapter 2, verse 18 to 25. And he says, before you can be married, a man must leave his mother and father. That leaving is what we are calling, that living thing is what we are calling a wedding. A time when you leave. And you can't leave and then people are not sure whether you have left or not. That's why a Christian cannot just get a girl and come, we stay. And even where you have sinned and the girl has gotten pregnant through sin, you must repent. And you can't repent and continue sleeping with her. Remember, to sleep with a girl before the wedding day, even if you are engaged, is sin. Because you have not committed yourself for life. So, it is immoral. It is immorality for you to sleep with your girlfriend, even on the morning of the wedding. The wedding is the one that changes from before the wedding. In a sexual relation is sin. After the wedding, you do it happily and you still go to heaven. So you can see how important a wedding is, because the one that determines whether sex is sin or not. You therefore cannot play around with the issue of weddings. It's a critical issue. It is, and the book of James says, when you have something important, call the elders to pray for it. Surely marriage is important, more important than any other issues. So call the pastor. The Bible word for pastor is also the word for elder. It's the same word, elder or pastor. So you need to call your pastor in order to tell your father, I am now gone. And the pastor is coming so that to pray for you as you enter into this new matter. So in a wedding, the minimum requirement is a pastor, the parents of the girl, the parents of the boy, a best man, and a best maid. You can't have a wedding. You can have a wedding with those. You can even meet in the pastor's office, and it will be still an accepted wedding. But wedding is critical. Because it's a prayer meeting. A wedding is a prayer meeting where you are seeking God to begin with you. Hence, you can only do it with a pastor. So, some people go for their traditional relations, and then think because the parents of the girl said it's okay, you can have your wedding, that she is not yours. No, she is not yours, because you are not a traditional person. You believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. So you don't believe in ancestral blessings. You believe in Jehovah's blessings. So therefore, what the parents giving permission is not called a wedding. It's a permission to have a wedding. And the only wedding a Christian can have is a wedding by a pastor. However, let me come out clearly. It does not mean it has to cost money. You can do a wedding on a Sunday during the Sunday service. Tell the pastor, the same way they normally dedicate babies. They will dedicate your wedding, and you don't have to cough any tea or any coffee. It will still be a blessed wedding, even if you have not used any money. So do not associate the wedding reception with the wedding. It's not a requirement. It is not needed. If you have money, of course, don't be Mikonogam. Give us the tea. But it's not part of the wedding. The wedding is a very cheap thing. So there is literally no reason why you would ever try to avoid a wedding. because it doesn't cost money. You can do it. You can do it in the pastor's office without involving anybody. You can do it in a Sunday service. All those things are biblically okay, because the critical thing is you have been able. Your parents are witnesses. You are not part of their house now anymore. Because the Bible is saying, for this reason, a man will leave his mother and father. From then onwards, they can't order you around. You are a new home. You have set up a new home. So you are no longer in the home of the girl. You are not in the home of the boy. You have now got a third home. The parents of the girl can come visiting. The parents of the boy can come visiting. You are a new home. And you are the head of that home as a boy. So there needs to be clarity. Because if you don't do it right, your parents could still continue interfering with your marriage. And that's why you need a pastor. Not just the parents. You need a pastor who confirms there needs to be vows and commitment until death do us part. And I think that's important. If you want to know something about the vows in a wedding, just go to my YouTube account, John N.N. Nganga, and search for a video on vows, wedding vows, so I can see what you are committing yourself and the meaning of whatever it is you are committing yourself to. That will be important. Let me mention clearly that although here I am saying a marriage should never start without a wedding, and that even if you have sinned and the girl is even pregnant, it is still important to have a wedding. Because if you have, even after she is pregnant, if you sleep with her before the wedding, you are now not just falling in sin. You are living in sin. So it is true you failed and God is forgiving. He has forgiven you. But now, although she is pregnant, have a proper wedding where the parents know you now are a new home. I think that will be very, very important. But let me emphasize, a wedding is not as important as a marriage. So, and that's why you are spending the time of engagement, preparing for marriage. Preparing a wedding should not be something that takes you more than 2 months, 2 or 3 months preparing. But the marriage requires a lot of preparation. Prepare more for marriage than for the wedding. By the way, a fantastic wedding can hardly improve your marriage. I do not know of any marriage counseling I've ever done where their complaint was how their wedding was. The issues that cause separation and divorce are not anything to do with the wedding. The quality of the wedding, the expenses of the wedding, whether big or small, do not affect your marriage. Your marriage is a separate issue, but the wedding has its place. Let me mention to you that all marriages are cross-cultural. Why? You need to understand that the girl has a different personality from you. And they say different personalities attract. So you need, in the preparation, you need to understand each other's personality. Because the personalities are different. One is quiet, the other is noisy. Don't think that you'll be able to change. Personality is not something you can change. Accept the people the way they are. Number 2, they have a different background. Your girlfriend's view of her husband may be based on her father, but you have never lived with the father. You have a different father. So what you assume when you come into marriage, you thought you discover you call the name husband is the same one name, but her idea about the husband is totally different from your idea. The background has made a difference in terms of interpreting the same words you are using. Then you need to understand a woman and a man, God made them different, deliberately different. Says he made them male and female. Those gender differences are real. And that's why you need to spend a bit of time together with your girlfriend and discover the many things women view things, common things, very different from you. You need to reach where you accept them before the wedding day. And of course, one of the things that you need to sort out is the issue of the church you attend. You cannot be attending 2 different churches because you end up having different faiths, different beliefs, different values, and they are going to affect your marriage. So that's why I'm saying every marriage, you are getting two different cultures, even if you are from the same tribe, even if you came from the same Christian Union, you will discover that there are differences that are coming together. You know, a Christian marriage is where both are intending to live for Christ. So what part of your preparation then is the whole issue about thinking about what does the Bible say about a Christian couple? Christ described what a Christian marriage is in Mark chapter 10. And he was quoting Genesis chapter 2. He says, Jesus then left the place and went into the region of Judea. Then they are asking a question. Then he says, what did Moses command you? He replied, they said, Moses permitted a man to write a certificate of divorce and send her away. It was because your hearts were hard that Moses wrote you this law. The first thing Jesus wants to tell them, do not copy Old Testament marriages. They had divorce, they had the polygamy, all those things. They are told they were allowed because of the hardness of their heart. God did not agree with them, did not actually support it. So New Testament, our Christian marriages are back following the pattern of Adam and Eve. Not Abraham with his concubine, not Jacob with his polygamy. No. Go back to the beginning is what a Christian marriage is. Because at the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother. So the next thing we are learning is that you cannot, in a Christian marriage, a man cannot marry a man. A woman cannot marry a man. He made them different. Then they can come together. To make a marriage, the first requirement is that you are no longer under your father's control. Whether you are a girl or a boy, you must come. Don't have a Christian marriage if you are still, if your parents are the one instructing you. Your parents can advise you, but they cannot instruct a married man or a married woman. And advice is different from instruction. Advice means whatever they tell you, you consider it with your spouse, and you can decide to follow it or not follow it. A mature Christian parent should understand that you don't have to do what they are saying, but you listen to them. Because he is saying, for you to have a Christian marriage, a man must leave his father and mother. Number 2, they must be united. They must be united. The man and the woman must be united. They must cleave to one another. The older versions put it. And number 3, they must become one flesh. And in that way, the couple is actually one, not two. And the last item in a Christian marriage, you cannot separate. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no man separate. A lawyer will not separate. A judge can annul your marriage, but it's still there. You are unable to cancel the marriage. When they were in the house again, the disciples asked Jesus about this. He answered, anyone who divorces his wife and marries another woman commits adultery against her. And if she divorces her husband and marries another man, she commits adultery. Are you getting it? Polygamy is adultery. You know, you are putting your wife aside, you have got another wife, you are polygamous, and you are doing adultery. The Bible is calling it adultery. So, if you want the thing to prepare for your marriage, Christian marriage must be Bible-based. You must not take the traditional view of a wife. You must take the biblical view of a wife. You know, traditionally, you pay bride price. You buy a wife. In Christian, it is two people willing to come together. Dowry does not play a role. Christian marriage comprises two contented people. A Christian marriage is one where the partner is the most important item. You will not have any. Your parents are no longer as important as your spouse. When you ask in your form, you ask next of kin. Next of kin can never be your parents after the wedding. The next of kin is your spouse. And your priority must be God first, spouse second, your relatives, your job, your career come a distant third. Your spouse takes the next position after God. A Christian marriage requires you to be available to your spouse. So you cannot get married and then disappear. Oh, I'm marrying you, I'm then disappearing. No. You need to arrange to go together. Once you are married, marriage is physical. The Bible tells us in heaven it shall be like angels. So there will be no marriage. So marriage is something for now. And in a Christian marriage, both are interdependent of one another. Not independent, not dependent, interdependent. The wife contributes, the husband contributes, they share. So the wife is not a dependent. The husband is not a dependent. Both of them contribute economically, socially, in all ways. You must contribute to your marriage rather than be a parasite. In Christian marriage, we are meant to be one and in love. And in a Christian marriage, the two trust each other and hence can submit to one another. It's not just the wife submitting to the husband alone. Even a husband must submit to the wife. But the Bible is clear. He is the head of the family. But at times, you need to submit to the wife in Jesus. If she corrects him, he should be willing to accept it, although he remains the head of the home. In a Christian marriage, therefore, we are talking about a monogamous, lifelong union of flesh and spirit. You are not only one in spirit, you are also one in flesh. Sleeping together is not all. You must be spiritually one. What do we mean when we say a monogamous marriage? And the Bible has said we are becoming one. Not the three becoming one. Look at Genesis 2:24. That is why one man, leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, not wives. And the two become one. So polygamy was excluded right from the book of Genesis. So it is clear right from Genesis that God had no intention of allowing polygamy. And it's important to understand that you got it as you get into marriage. Number two, please understand, if you're in a Christian marriage, it does not go beyond death. As soon as one of you is dead, you will not have marriage again. And let me now mention about dowry. The reason why you go through the New Testament, you never hear anything about dowry, is because the New Testament does not support the Old Testament idea of wife inheritance, where you pay dowry, and then if you died, your brothers took over your wife. No. Just look at 1 Corinthians 7:39. It says, and I quote, "A woman is bound to her husband as long as he lives. But if her husband dies, she is free to marry anyone she wishes, but he must belong to the Lord." What about if dowry had been paid? What happens to the dowry? That's why a Christian man cannot sell his daughter. He can accept a gift, because a gift is a gift. You will not ask me for it later. So that the girl can obey 1 Corinthians 7:39. She does not, your wife does not belong to your clan. And if you want a proof, just read the passage you are reading. That as soon as you are dead, the woman will be free to marry anyone, as long as the Lord. So the commitment is a commitment for life. That's why you can't have dowry. You can exchange gifts, but not dowry. Obviously, I'm not suggesting you go to your father-in-law to be, when you're asking for her in marriage, empty-handed, because that's not biblical. Generosity is a Christian virtue. So whenever you're visiting people, you go with the gifts. And by the way, the gift may be more than the dowry they would have asked. Because depending on how wealthy you are, you will go with a gift. So it will be important then, very, very important, that you understand that dowry cannot play a role. That's why When you go to ask for the hand of in marriage of your girlfriend to the parents, you don't go there for rurashio, for dowry. You go there for relationship. In Kikuyu we call it odoni. Christians don't have rurashio. Christians have odoni. Christians don't have bride price. They have fellowship. So even this gift can be given either way. When the parents of the girl are visiting the parents of the boy, they also go with a gift. It's an exchange of gifts. And it's a beginning. From then onwards, the boy now is accepted in that home. And their problem will become his problem. Because now him and just like the girl belongs to them, to his side, he also now belongs to the girl's side. So he can continue to help. It is not that you have purchased the girl. And we could go on, but I've already taken quite a bit of time, and it's after 4. So we are saying dowry cannot buy a Christian wife. It must never be regarded as property to be bought. That's why it is important to understand the difference between a traditional marriage and a Christian marriage. Christian marriage is different. It has nothing to do with the goods that you pay. That's why when in a Christian marriage, your children are not up for sale if you really are a man who has daughters. A Christian marriage is a permanent union. I've talked about that. It's an inclusive union. Anyway, I have to stop. But I also wanted to show you that even when the one that people like quoting that there was dowry in the marriage of Isaac and Jacob, and Isaac and Rebecca, the truth is there wasn't. There wasn't any. If you go to verse 50, you will see that in verse 50, the parents of Rebecca gave her away. Then in verse 53 is when they are given some gold. So the gold was not dowry. It was a gift. Because dowry is what is demanded for, and there was nothing demanded. Dowry is what is given to the parents of the girl because they have requested. A gift is what you give. You give the amount you want, how you want. And that's what happened in Genesis chapter 24. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with exchanging gifts. Let me repeat. But there is something wrong with agreeing to put a price on a girl. You know, some are told, you don't have to finish it. Your pay slowly. No. You should continue giving gifts, but there is no trading. You can't trade on a human being. Every time she does not cook again ugali, you are likely to be reminding her, do you know how expensive you are? Now, that's not something a Christian wants to do. Your wife is a gift from God, not property. And remember, once you are married, you are financially one. No ceremony with the blood will be allowed in your marriage. In your marriage process, if they ask you to kill a goat, don't agree. Why? Because traditionally, the shedding of blood was the one that was supposed to make the ancestral spirits bless your marriage. So if you don't want blessings from ancestors, buy meat in a butchery. If you are having a marriage function, don't kill a goat. It will be a little more expensive, but it's better to be more expensive than create a confusion of people thinking that your marriage is blessed because you produce a goat. Anyway, I better finish. Andrew. Andrew,
Yes, sir.
have I
Yes.
have I covered the topic?
Yes.
Now let's hear the questions so that whatever I left out, I can deal with.
I've seen some questions.
Oh, just read them for me. Read the 3 of them. I answer them.
I will welcome Francis to lead through that session of questions.
Francis, you are welcome.
Okay. Thank you so much, Andrew, and also John for sharing, and we are very grateful to God. There are 3 questions so far from the chat. I will read those, then maybe you can respond to that. Then if anyone can have any question, any other question, you can voice it out. Then we can wrap it up. So there was a question by Walter, which I think he had given it in the course of the session, but you have responded to it partially, or somehow you have responded to it. He was asking on the biblical perspective of dowry, and he also went further to ask how can we do the paying of dowry in such a way as to glorify God and not to please the culture, which I think you have.
I've covered that, but anyway, I'll mention something. The next question.
Okay. The other question is there was a question by Mr. Isaac Maora on whether the Attorney General, I think also that you've responded to, whether the Attorney General can officiate, whether you could go to the Attorney General to officiate your marriage. Then also Isaac asked a final question. This is the one on, let me read it. 1 Corinthians says, a woman whose husband has died should marry anyone she pleases. How does his concept of finding there is one created for you apply? How does the concept of finding apply there? I think maybe Isaac can voice this out so that it could be clear.
No, I understand what he is saying.
Okay.
He is saying that since he can marry anyone, does anyone mean anyone? If God has already said that if God has already told you to marry anyone, then it means you can choose yourself.
Okay.
That's what he is saying. Let me start with that one. You know, the moment you accept Christ as Lord, even the job you take is not your choice. You need to consult God for God to lead you in the choice of job. So here you are. We say you are free to do any job. Are you? If you truly are a Christian, you'll be seeking the mind of God as to which particular job will honor Him. Similarly, when He says you are free to marry anyone, it is that you are not tied up to being inherited as a wife. But you still have to consult the Lord to lead you. And anyway, let me give you 3 reasons why it's good to consult the Lord. Number 1, that girl you are seeing, you are not sure what will be in the future. Only God knows the future. So why would you want to choose and you don't have enough data on the future? God has the future. He knows which girl is best for you. That's why even if He told you to choose, go back to Him and tell, sorry, God, I don't have enough information. I need your leading and guidance. Number 2, when God is telling you that whatever you do as unto the Lord to praise Him, does that include getting a wife? It does. So it means that He still expects you to only get a girl to honor Him. How will you know which girl, if you marry her, will bring glory to Him without consulting Him? Number 3, when He says you can marry anyone as long as he's in the Lord, why does He want him to be in the Lord? Because that person will also be praying, so that in the end, who you marry will be what God guides, because He has to guide the other person and guide you for you to get married. So in that way, please understand, because I understand the question. Please understand that even where you seem to have the freedom to choose, when you start hearing Him say that He wants you to live a life to honor Him, it means you just have to consult Him and you have to follow His guidance right through. The other question was the one of registrar. I think I said so because we are saying marriage is not just a question of the legality. You need God's involvement. You need your parents' involvement. That's why now you need a man of God who can actually pray for you as you start the marriage. The registrar don't play that job. So you'd have to have if you truly are born again, it would be very questionable if you actually opted not to go to a pastor in order to go to the registrar. At the issue of dowry, I have said the way to do it is give gifts. Because the idea of the families getting to know each other that is the kind of tradition that should be kept. There is nothing wrong with it, and it's positive, where you don't just jump into a marriage, you involve both parties. It's very, very important, because they are now going to become your relatives. It is important that you know them. So the whole issue of the boy's parents going to visit the girl's parent, and the girl's parent visiting the boy's parents, in order to have fellowship and get to know each other, that must continue. If there is exchange of gifts, again must be continued. Issue of trading or following traditional list is what must stop. You cannot enter into those that, in our tribe, these are the requirements. You are not buying. You don't believe in buying your wife, but you don't mind giving a gift. Even if the gift is likely to be more than the gift is more than the how do I put it? The gift is more than the dowry, but you still want to give it. I think I've dealt with the 3 questions. Are there more questions?
Yes. Yeah, there are more questions.
Another 3?
Yeah, we can pick another 3. So I think there's one by Gashunga, which I think you have responded to. He was asking, let me read it. Are the men who bargain in the dowry relevant in our case? So I think that you have responded.
I've dealt with it.
So let me read the question by Andrew. Then there's someone who will verbalize the question, who will share his question. So the question by Andrew is, in the case of dilemma where both families disagree the two getting married, but God has confirmed that the two get married, how can that be handled? So how can you handle a situation where the families disagree, but God has confirmed? And then at this point I would welcome Josephat to Gashau. Brother Gashau, you can raise your question.
All right. I think I can raise so that Jina may answer both of them. I hope, Mboro, I can be heard.
You are clear.
Can I?
Yeah, you're very clear.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, John Nganga, for that amazing facilitation. I have quite an elaborate question here. And of course, you've touched several things which I wanted to ask. But now,
we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Dugu.
Gashau, unapotea kidogo.
You better write down the question. The internet has failed you. You better just write down the question.
Excuse Brother Gashau. Gashau.
I think he also can't hear us.
Okay.
Can you write to him on his phone? Just send him a message, Andrew.
Okay.
Okay, let me be answering the others. Now, can we agree that you will not go for wedding negotiations? You will go for wedding fellowship, pre-wedding fellowship, not wedding negotiations. You cannot negotiate unless you are in a trade. So let's agree that there is no question. You need to, and this needs to be understood. In most of the African relationships, the girl has a higher voice than you. So agree with your girlfriend that you will not go to her home to negotiate for her. You are going to ask for a word, for a word, to be allowed to marry her, but you are not going to be trading. If the girl has already told the father that, then obviously that will help. But you can't go from the boy's side and then refuse to negotiate, and you had not prepared them on that. You start saying there are problems, but the problem is coming from your girlfriend. She failed to do her job. So if you don't intend to be involved in negotiations, they should have known that from the beginning. Because you see, the father of the girl will have to talk to the uncles and talk and tell them this thing is a very strange one. They are not following the traditional system. Then they will quarrel among them until they agree to allow you to come. So the first thing you must do is sort out that with the girl. And you know, it's not straightforward. It's a pity I can see there are no girls in this meeting, because some girls want to be bought. I've been involved in counseling a young person, and the girl told me, I must be bought. So here you are trying to say there will be no buying, but you are befriending a girl who believes in traditional marriage, not in Christian marriage. So that needs to be sorted out way in advance. Well, before you ever, during the engagement period, one of the things that you need to discuss is, when you finally come to your home, shall we be coming for bride price, or will your father agree to accept a gift? And you know, the gift will not be necessarily small. It is whatever we can afford. That will be, let me leave it there. The second one is very, very important. What about if the father of the girl insists there will be no marriage unless there is muratina, there is going to be alcohol, unless there is gurario, we must slaughter a sheep, unless you pay so many millions of shillings. You start saying, we are Christians. He says, never, there will be no marriage. What do you do? I recommend 3 things. Number 1, did the girl actually talk to the father about it? If she didn't, withdraw from it. Tell your party to withdraw, and let the girl now continually talk with her parents. If the parents have been talked to, but they have actually refused completely, and of course one of the things is they don't even like you as a boy. They don't want their girl to be married by you. My suggestion is postpone your wedding. You see, the word of God says, honor your father and mother. If you just override them, just because they have refused, you know very well God has told you to marry the girl. The two of you are clear, you have heard from God. You just override it. What happens to the 10 commandments that says honor your father and mother? It is very important that you go and tell your parents, the boy's parents and the girl's parents, we respect you so much. We do not want a wedding without your permission. So we are canceling the wedding for now. We will come back to you next year. But in the meanwhile, we'll be praying for you that the Lord will soften your heart. If for a period of time you go back and they still reject the marriage, now they can never accuse you of dishonoring them. Because they know, they were young themselves. They know how desperate a young man is to get married. So for you to delay it by 6 months, by 1 year, they know very well that you really respect them, you honor them. So if at that point, the second thing I say, send a pastor to the father that is refusing. Sometimes the father of the boy refusing. Sometimes the father of the girl. Sometimes it's both of them. Send a pastor, your pastor, to them to explain to them that I'm going to go ahead and wed them, because the law allows adults to get married, but your children are very unhappy that you are not willing to agree. Would you please reconsider? If after the pastor they still refuse, then as adults, you need to inform them that you are going to get wedded even without their participation, and go ahead and have the wedding. I've seen it happen, and when the parents realize you are still respecting them, although they did not attend your wedding, the relationship improves, and there is a wonderful relationship with in-laws, despite the fact that at the wedding level, there was a problem. I think I've answered the question.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think. Nice. Thank you so much, Gashao. He has written it. I will read this, and I think this could be the final two. Paul says, can you elaborate more on intermarriages, that is of different tribes? And then Gashao, how do we approach the issue of dowry if the family someone is marrying from insists on following a specific list that you should honor before the girl is released? You have addressed them in one or another.
Now I agree that Gashao has real internet difficulties, because isn't that what I was covering? Yeah. So I think somebody will have to help him. I hope you are recording, so that he can actually get it. The one that the one of intermarriage. Remember, if you get born again and you are a Luo, and I get born again and I'm a Kikuyu, we are likely to be closer than two Luos. Two Luos, one who is saved and one not saved, are further apart than a Luo and a Christian. Because you see, the moment you are born again, the first time you are born a Luo, when you are born again, you are born a Christian. The first time you are born a Kikuyu, when you are born again, you are born a Christian. You are a Christian first, only a Luo second. It means that 80% of the issues, we are in agreement. There's a small fraction where, because I come from lowland, it will be different from when I come from Kikuyu land. It therefore means intermarriage, the worst intermarriage is between a Christian and a non-Christian. Even if you are from the same village, there will be trouble in your marriage. But when you are marrying from outside your tribe, it's a 20% problem, and it's real. We must accept it. You must know my background, and I think I mentioned it earlier. My background of marriage is different from your background. You should be ready for it. And that's why during the engagement, you'll be discovering that this Luo boy, that's what he thinks of a wife. Then you debate what's the Christian position of this. Then this Christian girl, this is what he thinks of a wife. How do you sort it? How do you sort it out? So the engagement period is the period you are debating those small differences that have to do with your background, with your tribal difference. Once you have prepared correctly, your marriage will be okay despite marrying from different angles. But you must deal with that 20% of differences because of background, because of different tribes look at marriage differently. And those things need to be discussed before the wedding. The meeting is back to you, Andrew.
Thank you so much. I will take it back to Andrew.
Thank you so much, Mr. John Nana, for the elaborate sharing today. I also appreciate you for having quite a very tight schedule. It's fix some time for us.
We can hardly hear you, Andrew.
Okay, now let me do it without the video. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I was saying that we really don't take this opportunity and this chance to be with you today because, well, all that we have been able to learn from you, to listen from you,